or not, we have two brothers who are co-founders who are going to come up, Alexander and Harrison Chen, who are robotics engineers and are based in Shenzhen. And they're going to be interviewed by their investor, Benjamin Joffe, a partner at HAX, which is also across the border in Shenzhen. And their company is TrainerBot. So we're going to hear all about TrainerBot next from these two young brothers. And only one of them is under 30. So, okay, take it away, Benjamin.
Thanks. Pleasure to be here, and hi to everyone who braved the storm to come all the way. So, my name is Benjamin. I'm one of the partners at HAX. We're an investment fund focused on hardware and early-stage startups. We're part of a group called SOSV, which is a global VC with $300 million under management. We've done 200 hardware investments, and we look globally for opportunities. And I'd like to go back in time a little bit to tell you a bit more about who I'm going to interview today, because they contacted us for the first time about 2 or 3 years ago, when I think, Harrison, you were not yet in university, you were in high school, right? And those two brothers are like very, very creative hardware creators that are not only good at creating electronics, but also software. And we're very passionate about one more thing, that was ping pong. So they decided to work on a robot to actually train ping pong, because they used to play together and then were separated due to studies, and wanted to basically be able to practice so that they could play together later with better skills. So they approached us with this, and it sounded kind of wacky, like a ping pong robot. Who kind of needs a ping pong robot? Turns out that their plan was bigger than just ping pong. Their plan was actually to reinvent sports training. So before turning to them and discussing more about their project, I'd like to show a little video, if you can switch, to just show you what it actually looks like to train with a robot.
Bring it anywhere they go, bring to condo basement.
So this journalist is a total beginner at ping pong.
That's way better than the last 2 times.
Ready?
Did she play before?
Harrison's really good at crazy amount
Never
of UFC.
So this is Harrison. He's a little bit more experienced. So that's what speed, like one ball per second? Something like that?
That's crazy.
Here it comes.
So she's trying at the same speed.
Nope.
Doesn't work so well. So what's interesting, so I think that's okay for the video. Thank you. So there's a lot of startups with lots of ambitions solving the world's problems, and there's also startups who just want to make the world more fun. I think that's one of those, but they have like bigger ideas behind it. So maybe turning to you guys, I'd like to understand and share more with the audience. How do you explain what you're working on? What's your plan behind this robot? Maybe starting with Alex.
So what we find out is both of us love playing sport, but learning sport is such a hard process to get good, because a lot of times all you have access is to your friends, and they might not be the best choice to help you improve, but it could be a lot of fun. So we thought that, what if we can have a robot that just always play at your level and grow with you? And this will be something that's really amazing, because doing sports takes a long time to train, and with a robot that will always grow with you will be great.
So Harrison, can you tell us what this robot can do? Because it looks like it's just throwing balls like randomly, but what are the actual functions of the robot?
So the coolest part of this robot is that there's a community behind it, and we partner with one of the biggest YouTubers that teach you ping pong, and eventually.
Can you speak closer to the mic?
Oh, okay, yeah. So eventually, what you do is we actually virtualize the way you learn sport. So now you watch a video on your phone and you learn from the coach, but you don't need a coach in front of you. You can just train with a robot. The robot will perform how the coach will perform, so to show you what to do.
So you bring basically a training from a professional, you can bring it to real life.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like a kind of Coursera, all those like online courses that you bring to the physical world.
Yeah, so it's like YouTube. So we learn a lot of things from YouTube, and you can execute on your computer. But for sport, it's really hard to find someone to execute. You can learn from YouTube by understanding the techniques, but you won't be able to have someone to train you right away. So with TrainerBot, we can actually use a robot to execute the training for you, and then you'll be able to learn from it.
So I have another burning question, because anytime we talk about robots, it becomes very emotional, particularly for Americans, because they think, okay, robots are stealing our jobs, very, very tough. Even though China, there was this article in The Economist saying that Shenzhen will actually, in Shenzhen, factories under the government want actually to turn most of the manual jobs into, robot jobs. What's the benefit? Is there any benefit for coaches to have robots involved in those trainings?
So there are a lot of benefits for coaches to involve the training with robots, because coach is just one person. So if they want to teach someone, every time it's one-to-one, they cannot scale. And the only way for them to scale is if they can put their contents out there and everyone has their robot, everyone can train at the same time. Become one coach to 100% train at the same time. And that's an amazing part of using robots to help coaches to teach more people.
So turning to Alex, so there's this idea that anytime you want to create hardware, it takes tons of money and lots of time. So is that true? Like, what can you tell us about like how much it takes, how much effort it takes to create a robot like this?
So the entire company is just 2 of us. And for us, we really believe in lean manufacturing. And by coming to Shenzhen, it is all possible. Because Shenzhen have a lot of suppliers that they will not necessarily need to work with big volume orders. For a startup like us, they respect our order and they're able to teach us a lot of knowledge that it wasn't possible before. Because we have such huge amount of suppliers here, we treat them like coaches and teachers actually. Every time we visit a factory, we learn a lot. And slowly, we believe with all the knowledge we gain from our suppliers, we can have a really good understanding of how manufacturing works, and therefore we don't need as much money as a big company just as they do.
So in an earlier interview, there was a mention that in recruiting, there's a lot of human touch, but definitely in the hardware, would you say there's also quite a bit of human touch?
It's all about human touch, because when working with suppliers, it's actually work with a person, not really a factory of robots. For them to understanding what you want and what they can get out of this is super important. So we spend a lot of time understanding the vibe and the tone on what we can help each other to grow, and that's the value.
So Harrison, you guys moved to Shenzhen, joining HAX Accelerator program. You spent 4 months with us. Some people might imagine that because you're from Taiwan, you speak Mandarin, maybe you could do everything on your own, and you don't actually need, weird foreigners lost in Shenzhen to help you out. But how did that make a difference being within the HAX ecosystem, and how do you leverage it?
So the best part of being part of HAX is because there are a lot of alumni and the staff team from HAX that can actually show you the path on where to go for and then avoid all the mistakes that everyone had made. So one of the biggest one is that if you go to a manufacturer, what do you have to ask for? And when we interview for our injection molding factories, we actually interview maybe like 6 to 10 injection molding factories. What we have to do is we prepare a list of questions on our every single parts, and then we just ask every single one of them, and eventually we'll break them down from a 2-3 hours interview, and then you will understand who has the best engineering capabilities. And this is what the staff team and the alumni told us what to do, because they told us that the more questions you ask, the more understanding you will have on the manufacturer, so you will be able to actually work with them in a better way.
So let's say beyond this initial ping pong robot, what's your idea of how you want to grow your company and how global do you want it to be?
So we believe robots will have a huge presence in sports, because a lot of times as an athlete, you don't necessarily have the best coach or mentor in your neighborhood. However, with the robot, we can augment that experience, because the coaches or the better players can program the robot to do what's required to do a better training, and therefore they can reach out to almost everyone in the world that has a robot. Today, sports is all about human teaching human, and that's really effective. But in order to scale, like how Coursera scaled to every student in the world, we believe robot would do the same thing for sports.
Okay. One more thing is that we've been talking about robots and dreaming of robots like since Metropolis in the 1920s. why is it happening now? Why do we see so many new things coming up? Like we're way beyond like the wearables, the drones. Like we see lots of new things. What's happening?
That's a really good question. We come to Shenzhen to find out. So what's happening is that small computer has become really efficient and really fast and really cheap. And by having your suppliers around, you can dig into motors and chips and everything. And we find out the true cost of building a robot is actually not that expensive when you have the entire team in your local area. And that's why we think that the time is robot has come.
So that actually leads me to another question, that America and Silicon Valley seems to have lost a good part of the silicon. It seems to have moved all the way to Shenzhen now. So are they at a disadvantage? Is there a way? I mean, there's still a lot of engineering talent, lots of talent, like research on universities, on engineers. What can they do from Silicon Valley or with Shenzhen? Like Harrison, if you have a take on it. Alex? Okay, Alex.
So I think Silicon Valley is great, and they're doing a lot of great work on hardware. China and Silicon Valley, I think the best thing is how they can help their local hardware startups to build great products. Like what Tesla is doing is a very good example that manufacturing can also work in US. And China have tons of, almost all the products are built here, and they have tons of experience. I think to build a better hardware product, they just have to put in more focus and just helps hardware companies become like software companies.
So do you think you could do what you do in Shenzhen, you could do it in Silicon Valley?
Right. For a smaller startup like ourselves, it will be better to base in Shenzhen because Shenzhen manufacturers, they really value smaller orders and it will help you on a one-on-one basis. However, for larger scale, like let's say a car company, they have to be close to their customer and they'll be able to automate more of the process. They can be in states.
Another thing about Shenzhen that people talk about is the speed and the cost advantage. Like, can you mention a bit how that makes a difference for you?
Oh, so the speed is insane. Every part we order in Shenzhen normally takes 1 or 2 days, at most 3 days, to come to our hands. And we're talking about super customized prototype. Parts that the manufacturer don't even have. And in US, that could take up to 1 or 2 weeks. Imagine if every iteration you do on hardware takes 1 to 2 weeks. 1 year, you can only do like 24 iterations. In Shenzhen, we change our prototypes. When we're in HAX, we build a new robot almost every 2 weeks. And that's how incredible the speed it is.
On the cost advantage, like Shenzhen has become more expensive, still cheaper than Silicon Valley. But how about the parts and the component costs? Does that also change compared to outside Shenzhen?
So Shenzhen has become more and more expensive, but everyone is just moving 1 hour away. So technically, the cost didn't differ that much. So all you have to do is you still go to Taobao, go to Alibaba, and search for the factories near you. And you can actually just visit them by taking a taxi 1 to 2 hours, even 30 minutes away, and you can still find the cheapest part that you want, but also have some quality that you need.
So maybe to conclude, because I think we're like about to run out of time. What makes you most excited about robots, and which ones do you think are going to be the next ones that people will buy in addition to your robot?
So I believe robot is going to automate almost everything we do. One of the biggest excitement I have about robots, other than sports, I think cooking will be one of the biggest area where a lot of parts in cooking can be easily automated, and we can have a lot of good food of a press of a button.
Harrison, do you concur? Any other robots that you find interesting or exciting?
I think cooking is one of the best.
Maybe the next opportunity there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's great to see their excitement about the robotics field and all the different applications for robotics, and I can't wait for